put us up online. Thank you, Tamara. Okay, good morning and welcome everybody. Welcome staff and those online. We've got Sarah Jane joining us online this morning. And we just also want to extend a special welcome to Linda CE from Squamish in British Columbia, Canada, who's on an exchange, and will be Gina Cochran will be heading over to Canada in the coming months to fulfil the exchange the other way. So always lots to learn, and a special welcome. This morning, right, we'll kick off this morning with our apologies. We have apologies from Peter Jager. Thanks, Booth, Russell, and seconded Kevin Tappan for acceptance of apologies. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Is there any further additional business? There is. Any declarations of interest this morning? It's relevant in the agenda. So we'll move on to item number 5, which is the confirmation of the minutes from the 13th of August. Thank you, Sue. Voting seconder, Jane Sainsbury. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, we'll now move on to item 6, which is our public forum, and we have two public forum participants this morning. And first up, we have Ken Royson, and he's speaking about the improvement of road safety at Wahara East Road and Poland Road Crossing. Good morning, Ken, and welcome.
Thank you. Want to speak?
It's fine. You can stand, you can sit, you can
Thanks for giving me a chance to speak.
You're welcome.
And I'd like to just pass this to that side and that one to that side. I'm speaking on the subject of improving the road safety on the State Highway 27 between Matamata and Wahara, and Wahara East Road, the state road safety. I believe it can be done without any change in speed limits or signs or anything. And what I propose, that plan, that photo there is a photo of the crossing, which is a shortcut crossing across the two roads. Now, I travelled on State Highway 27. I live in Protera route, and I travelled on Highway 27. I noticed there's no signed, pull over. So any cars that do stop, they're facing 100k cars coming up behind them, and then they try and get around that corner. And so what I would like to have done is I would like to have that crossing closed completely so that the traffic stays at 100k without breaking it to 30k. And similarly, on the other side, anyone going to Wahara would take the Wahara road, and they would just stay at 100 k's. They wouldn't slow down to that intersection. So that's, and I understand it's a council road. Wahara East Road, it's a council road. The other side is Kiwi. It's a road service road. Now, I have a personal reason for it, because that is. My friend last year was killed last Saturday night.
Sorry for your loss.
That's photo I took at the police compound in Hamilton of the car. I believe that the road, it was late in the afternoon, 5:30. It was dark, and the power poles down west, the Wahara East Road, form a wall. If you look at them at a certain angle, and she couldn't see the oncoming car. Car looked like it was doing over 100 k's and slammed into her. So you can see the results of that car accident. So that's my personal reason for being here today.
We understand.
So I would like you to vote to to have that road, that crossing closed. It's a shortcut that goes nowhere. It just links those two roads. Anybody coming out of the supermarket could go back around the roundabout at Matamata and get onto State Highway. Anyone going to Wataroa, and in fact, anybody going from the supermarket on the Wataroa Road will pull into State Highway 20 in Wataroa. So I can't see the point in the crossing existing.
Thank you for that. I think there is a process that we follow. I'll defer to our CE Mania to explain the process when these sort of incidents happen.
Thank you, Adrian, and yes, condolences for your loss. It's the tragedies such as this. We do have a process, and Serious Crash Investigation Unit will investigate what actually happened. And clearly, what we are trying to do is understand what we can do, what are the options that we can take to avoid such tragedies. So that process has already started. I can, if you leave, we've got your contact details. I can give you an indication of when we're likely to receive that report, but it will be very thorough because of the seriousness of the issue.
Yes.
And then it'll come back to our team, and our team will work with, because it's right by the state highway as well, and that has an influence on that section. We'll be working with NZ, New Zealand Transport Agency, to precisely see what we can do to avoid these kinds of tragedies.
Well, I had hoped a Kiwi rail man would come and sit beside me and tell me the number of near escapes he had. You know.
Yes, and absolutely, they are definitely a party that we need to consider.
And
we look at it.
Make the rail traffic faster too, because they won't be hesitating to jam on the brakes as somebody to hop in front of them. There was a road accident. There wasn't any trains involved.
So let me just reassure you that it'll be a very thorough process that is open to public scrutiny as well.
Sure.
So if you did leave your contact details, I could give you. Got those contact? Yeah, I can let you know when we receive the report, the initial report.
Thank you.
Would you like your pieces of
You got questions?
papers back?
No. I think you've been very clear on what you would like, and we've explained the process
You
to
happy
you.
that I go now?
Yes, thank you for taking the time to come and share it. And again, our sincere condolences.
I hope you bring about change.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, Ken. Take care. Okay, we'll now move on to the second public forum, where we've got, have they come, Peter and Paul aren't in here yet, are they? Come on up, Paul and Peter. Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you.
You've got 5 minutes to give us your pitch on Tui Park.
Right. I was just meeting some of the neighbours out the foyer, and I've just given my pitch. But look, first of all, good morning, Madam Mayor and councillors. My name's Paul Decker, and I'm representing the Te Aroha Rotary Club today, which is a proposal to start looking at the development of Tui Park, which is the 7 hectares between Central Centennial Ave and Gilchrist over here on my right. Tui Park, just a bit of history, in 1975, 50 years ago, was vested into the mayor, councillors and citizens of Te Aroha for a recreational park 50 years ago. So it's already a recreational park and has been for 50 years. However, apart from the bowling club, which is great that it's there, they have about half a hectare out of the 7 hectares. Apart from them, it's a electric fenced cow paddock that you can't use because the electric fences are pretty good. I can let you know that's true.
Well, we always need people to test.
I've done a few, yes. And so the vision and the idea is that we come up with a master plan. In that drawing behind there is the beginning of that, and basically they're just squares on over the park of conceptual ideas of what could happen. Now, I've already had some of the neighbours talk to me about how that they didn't want trees, for instance, on the planting sides of Russell Ave and Centennial, and that because trees will block their sun. And I think that's dead right. And they're very happy with the largest tree being a kowai tree and flaxes. And so those sorts of things are what today is about, is trying Rotary getting together with the community and other clubs and coming up with a master plan. And then once we have a master plan, we can cut it up into bite-sized pieces that we can tackle. There's stage 1, stage 2, and hopefully I'll live long enough to see stage 20. And not looking for money from the council, because that will be your first question, I'm sure, is how we're going to pay for this. The intention of the club and myself and Peter is to fundraise those bite-sized pieces, do it as a community group with council support, obviously. And fundraising, there's quite a few grants available throughout the country for this type of activity, and we can actually try to hook into those. As I said, we do one step at a time, and till we have a completed park for the users, the people of Te Aroha and visitors to use. Any questions?
Yes. Clarification. Obviously, we've got quite a substantive plan in place. Obviously, we're not in a decision-making space, so there's a process to follow that yet to be understood fully. And yeah, I guess so. You've got a question.
Yes. What sort of activities? My eyesight is looking not even.
Oh, sorry. So, for instance, a walking track that goes from the end of East Avenue there and Gilchrist. It's on the right-hand side, and that walking track would follow the river, the stream, all the way down to the Rose Gardens. You know where the Rose Gardens are? Well, that's where it would come out. On the proposal, it says that there's a bridge would go across the stream. That may not ever happen. One of that would be very expensive, but two bridges have been there and washed out already. So a third bridge, though, we've got modern technology, we may be able to have a bridge, but we could start with stepping stones at the very worst, because it's only a little stream. And the idea is that the walking track goes there. And then, as I said, all that right-hand side of the top level to the houses of the other side of the stream would be planted in native plants, small plants, flaxes and kowais and so on, to attract the tuis to Tui Park. And then we have an idea of Gilchrist Avenue being a barbecue area. There's a lovely big flat area there, which is in there. That's already there and there's already parking, off-street parking was already there. That for whatever reason, the council many years ago put in parking to probably access the park itself. There's a heap of parking there. And that's currently got some beehives on it. We'd keep the bees and would want to keep the bees, and we'd move them to the other corner. In the bush area between the bowling club and the Gilchrist, we're proposing the local mountain bike club wants a child learning mountain bike area. Then there's the idea that maybe community gardens on the left-hand side there, but that's also had brackets off-dog area, because the two off-dog areas are currently on the other side of the river at the moment, and so that would give an area on that side. And a community garden does come with issues, so maybe the dog area is the first way to go. But what else we got there? We've got the car parking, the bowling club obviously would be promoted and looked after. And then basically some open space, which you have to have because it's a floodplain. So that's the sort of thing that we're thinking of at the moment. But certainly after today, we would like to be talking with as many residents as possible. And I am sure that that will change, and the concept that we're proposing today and will develop over the next 12 months. I'd like to think that by this time next year that we're started to plan for the winter, when we get the rain, so that that was all prepared, and that we'd in the following summer put in the walking track. That's sort of how I would like to see things progress.
Okay, I just got two lights on, Bruce.
No, I'd like to see a copy of the plan provided for us, just for through the
It's only a public forum.
yeah.
James.
Oh, yeah, it's not a park I know well, but you were saying that, obviously got grazing livestock up there at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
When you remove the livestock, or if you remove the livestock, obviously there'll be a lot of ongoing maintenance, mowing, etc. So has that been factored into your planning and the ongoing?
Yes, in the whole proposal, that will become a cost to council, would be ongoing maintenance, I believe. And I believe that because it would be piecemeal, that one project at a time, and that cows will still have room there for some years. But meantime, the parks authorities, they would be budgeting in for that to happen. And if you think about it, we've had 50 years of deferred costs. Maybe there should be 50 years of deferred costs. Because it has been a reserve for 50 years. But that would be a long-term cost to the council, would be definitely maintenance.
Oh, there's no other lights on. So thank you, Paul and Peter, for coming in this morning and pitching your idea for Tui Park to us. Obviously, this is not a decision-making space in our agenda, so we'll just leave it at that for now. And
Thank you.
Talk to staff.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Right, thank you. And thanks for the public, members of the public that are obviously here in support or not in support. Thank you for coming and listening to this presentation. And we'll now move on to item 7.1, which is the procurement policy review. And we've got Sangeeta and Lania. Good morning.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the council. Good morning to you all. So the endorsed procurement policy, it ensures that the public funds are spent wisely. It supports local economic development and maintains public trust in council operations. All purchasing decisions deliver value, are transparent, and support our community long-term well-being. The policy applies to all staff and contractors involved in procurement, except for wages and any property negotiations. Importantly, it aligns with the relevant guidelines like NCT procurement rules and the Auditor General's good practice guidance, and also with the Council's strategic direction. At the heart of this policy is our procurement vision, which is to achieve best value for money by considering quality, cost, timing, risk, and sustainability. Council is committed to ethical and transparent procurement practices, supporting local suppliers in considering total cost of ownership and the environmental impact that is supported by our strategic priorities. And the policy aims to clarify the procurement decisions will be guided by the risk-based approaches, and the thresholds have been included onto the procurement policy. This was approved by Risk and Assurance Committee, and if you have any questions.
Just a statement, good to see that we've got some surety with the local providers. That's really important for our people here that we walk out of town. if it's running about the same price, it gets very, very tricky.
Thank you.
Yeah, my question is kind of in conjunction with that, but I see in there that it does say, to go to local suppliers where possible. How much is that? Like, is there a weighting for that in this? Like, if we've got the same price or very same price from an out of town supplier versus a local supplier, like at what point do you pick an out of town supplier versus a local supplier? Like, is there a, you can go local.
It's the matrix.
You go local if it's no more than 10% more than going out of town or whatever. Because I do believe in, spending that money locally, and I would be okay within reason if it costs a little more to stay local. But how's that kind of handled in this?
So there's a number of ways that that's done. Firstly, if we believe there's sufficient competition, and depending on the level, because there are thresholds, this is very much a risk-based approach. But if it's, for example, I'll give you an example, the recent Mines office upgrade, we felt that there were sufficient suppliers within the district to actually do that job. We just went to local suppliers. So whenever we know that there is a strong market and that can be competitive, we actually don't necessarily go beyond that. I mean, pretty much all of our trades are within the district. In terms of the bigger contracts, what tends to happen is there is I can't think of the wording. There's a provision in there for other wider benefits, and there's a weighting typically of 10% on that. And I think of the Matamata Stadium as a classic one for that, where we put that provision in. And one of the wider benefits is use of and employment that flows into the community from that particular supplier. Now, external suppliers, contractors on that job also use local people as well. So that's how we can structure it within the tender process. So it's actually considered. The NZCA process is a little bit more prescriptive in terms of how we can do that. They still look at wider outcomes. I think is the description. So there's a number of ways. I think the other thing that's important too, in terms of this policy, is Sangita will report to the Risk and Assurance Committee at least quarterly, and those are one of the things that we report on, how our procurement has gone in terms of local. Local can be difficult to define. I know Sangita's said that to us a number of times. It's what is local, so we've kind of formed a definition on that. But I think the test of a policy is it working? And so I just want to advocate that those reports are a test of that. So as best we can, we have a view that local people, all things being equal, for lots of reasons beyond the responsiveness and all, beyond the dollars, all of those other factors that we can get, because people, when we're in trouble, we've got an emergency, our locals, look after us very well. So we try to get the balance right, and the policy is being worded in a way. And Sangita's done a great job to streamline it, I believe, and to make it more understandable for our people who are responsible for this process. So it's done a great job there. And as I say, the test is actually implementing it and see if we're successful. So long-winded answer. There's just a couple of points I wanted to make in relation to the policy that came from your question.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you for that. Yeah, because this is not massively comprehensive around that, so to have a bit more detail on that is good. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot goes into the tender process to be successful to win the contract. Right, well, if there's no further questions or discussion, would someone like to move the recommendation, please? Okay, move James, seconded Kevin, that the council approves the proposed procurement policy for implementation of the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. We'll now move on to item 7.2, which is the Waitoa water engagement, and we've got Andrea present. Jim. Good morning.
Thank you. So you have the report, and I appreciate you have read that. In September, we talked about an approach with water and water and engagement we would be undertaking with the community, and that was very much theory at the time. So I've gone through some more of the planning process and talked to the community a little more about it. We'll come back to you about what the detail looks like and the approach that we're taking. One of the key things with the deliberative approach is that the sponsor, in this case the council, makes a commitment to what it's prepared to do, what it's going to do, and makes it up front. Because the idea is that the community themselves come up with the preferred recommendations. It is done with an independent facilitator, a skilled facilitator who is clear about what's in and what's out in terms of what can be negotiated and what isn't on the table for negotiation. But there is still room for council to be able to say, for these reasons, these very good reasons, we cannot pursue these, and you communicate that back to the community. So there's still that option there. But the intent of this is that where the recommendations are reasonable, that the council would accept those. So that's the intention behind the delivery process. So I didn't mean to put the engagement plan there in its entirety to draw you into the detail, but I thought given this is a new process for many of us, it might be informative to understand how it kind of plays out. So today I'm asking ultimately for your commitment for the promises or the things we're going to commit to that are outlined on page 7 of the engagement plan. Maybe just have some way it works.
Chris, you look like you're poised to press.
This is an outstanding presentation to me, right? It's cemented into my mind that we are fully engaged, but we're communicating it to everyone, and in particular the Waitoa people, of how it's going to go. And I can't fault it.
And probably adding to that's really important that the community speak and give us their, because it's a significant decision for them to make. And it's been going for a while, but I think it's not easy to get hold of everybody, and this will be a good way to facilitate that. And their engagement is critical, because you're either in or you're out, and it's for them we want them to make that decision with what we're offering, as you said, our promise. So
I think it's really important we hit those timelines, though.
Yeah.
Because it's gone on for a long time. So, if we want them to trust us and move forward, I think we really do have to hit those timelines. Who would the facilitator would kind of know what we are up to? Do you have somebody in mind? I don't need a name, but you have somebody who kind of works in our space.
Yeah, so there are a couple of people, well, more than a couple, handful, I should say, perhaps, that have been involved in a few deliberative processes and have been involved with local government and that. So yes, I'm talking with some at the moment about them coming on board to help us with it.
Because it just makes it custom. That's what we need to be.
Yeah, and acknowledging that's actually a really good point. So and of course there's always a cost to doing that, but that's the right thing to do. Yeah. I think I get the feeling around the room, and we've been, talked about it for a long time, and now's the time to get on with it. This is the right way to go forward.
The cost is small when you consider the overall project.
And the impact of it. This is the thing, is the impact. So yeah. So with no more decision.
If I could just comment a couple of things, just to the time frame. Andrew did an amazing job. Andrew and Bridget did an amazing job at the last Waitoa public meeting to present this and take a meeting that was lukewarm to one of support, I believe, when we left the room. They did a great job of that. Andrew was also very good at mapping out the uncertainties we have in this process. So some of those uncertainties occur because we changed the way we manage our people. So Andrew's been great at making that clear. And what we've committed to do is the things that we can control and the things that we can influence. That's what we're driving for. Some things will change, but our goal is to ensure that whatever the decision the council makes through the Waitoa community is able to be implemented. I just need to acknowledge that, as I say, that evening where she presented this to the community, she did an amazing job, in my opinion, to bring the community on board to this concept, because it was alien to many of them, I think so.
Excellent. Nice. Sharon.
Sorry, losing my voice here. My only concern of all of this is opposite the Fonterra out there. There's been 3 or 4 changes of home ownership in the last few months that they are fully aware of the processes that are going on. That just for the updates.
So one of the things that's become apparent through the discussions in the community meetings, and those who attend the community meetings and the residents have said to us, look, there are people who have just tuned out, but they're not reading anything, they're not coming to these meetings, what's going to happen? So part of the process is door knocking, and be quite persistent with that to try and speak to as many people as possible.
Re-engage.
Absolutely. Some people have the view that they can opt out, and this isn't going to be a situation where they can do that. So we need to get in touch with them to let them know this will affect you. Yeah. Thank you.
Any questions? So you'd like to
I'll move.
move the recommendations 1, 2, and 3. We confirm our commitment, deliver a process, and that we note that this commitment is necessary to give effect to the approach that we previously endorsed in September 2024, and that we acknowledge that staff will continue to work collaboratively with the Matamata-Piako ROI and the Waitara community. Right, and second is James Sainsbury. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Andrea. That is, and yeah, it was a nice, easy read, wasn't it? It was quite clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will that document go to people?
We'll make that publicly available, but in terms of we'll make it more a conversational document for people to understand the involvement of the community panel. Yeah, and try and get an expression of interest from us.
It was very pretty.
Well done. Thank you.
Great optics. Open hand with the water range.
Okay, yeah, I've got item 7.3, which is the Water Services Act, and municipal delegations. So I've got Ellie down as the.
Yeah.
You as well?
It's a good film.
Or I'll try to answer questions, and Ellie will fit them up when she arrives if there are any questions. Very good indeed. The first one is very procedural. Just need to make sure that we can operate efficiently in that space, the delegations. The second one in relation to risk pool, again, is an efficiency issue. Risk pool, its state or its reason for being at the moment is actually to recover as much funds as possible from the insurers on behalf of all the local authorities. And it's their sole remaining function. And any decisions, this likely to be a decision come up in October or November around directors, which supports that process. So, I'm happy to take any questions on any of those that I can't, so I could defer to Ellie when she arrives.
So we just go up together. Oh, no, here she is. Here she comes. Hi, Ellie, we're running ahead of schedule.
Yeah, sorry, I'm late.
Right. No, you're not. We're early.
You're back.
And so, Ellie, just in the interest of me not saying something wrong or having said something wrong,
Okay.
I just explained that the first delegation is very procedural, allows us to operate efficiently and effectively, and the second one relates to risk pool and risk pool's functions from here on in to try and recover funds on behalf of the councillors. Councils are a part of that mutual, so again, it's about efficiency to satisfy that particular objective.
Exactly. Yeah. Both of them are just to allow staff to do their work that they are planning on undertaking soon. And as Minna said about risk pool, that will continue ongoing for a few years now as more and more things. And they've actually just sent through a review of some terms in relation to it. So it will keep coming up, and just for the purpose of time and efficiency, allowing the Mayor and CEO delegation will help with that. Any questions?
Procedural. All good, right. Okay, will someone like to move the recommendation, please?
I'm happy to move the
Thank you, Caleb. Move Caleb, second Bruce, that we delegate to the CEO the complete delegable powers of the Water Services Act, and to Number 2 is to delegate CEO, Mayor and Deputy Mayor individually the power to exercise council votes in regards to risk pools when matters arise. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carry. We are running ahead. Did you come in?
Oh, thank you. Lovely to be back.
Yeah, cheers.
See you.
Okay, shall we adjourn for just a moment because we are just waiting for a presenter for the next item. We'd show how far away you'd be and go to adjourn, but good morning, Carolyn and Jay. Item 7.4 is the approval of staff submissions and the RMA reporting. This one for
Morning. Happy to just go through the submissions and a quick summary, and then people can ask questions. So we've obviously had packages 1 to 4. So the report offers a summary of the submission points, and then we've got the more detailed points in the attachments to the agenda. Packages 1 to 2 will result in amendments to existing national direction and help shape new national direction documents, for example, National Policy Statement for Hazards. And just to be mindful that the feedback to packages 3 and 4 will help shape future draft documents. So that's going to be the National Planning Act, which we do expect to come back for feedback later this year. That's the current information. So just to summarise, package 1, obviously related to infrastructure and development. That was a range of national policy statements and national environmental standards, and it's been designed to make all processes related to infrastructure more streamlined. This package also covered electricity and telecommunications. Generally, objectives and policies are proposed to be more enabling. Definitions have been broadened to include more activities. While we supported this approach, it was noted that some of the proposed provisions have a more urban focus, and the submission raised concerns about the suitability of some of the provisions, for example, the permitted height of telecommunication poles up to 30 metres in the NES for electricity transmission activities, and the smaller yard setbacks in the NESs for building flats and pakanga. The submission sought a more nuanced approach for smaller towns such as ourselves. National Policy Statement for Natural Hazards was welcomed to the suite of national direction. However, the submission sought that guidance was developed in the use of the new hazard matrix. Primary sector package 2, the focus of this was to amend existing documents. The submission expressed concern at the proposal to remove LUC3 from the provisions of the National Policy Statement for highly productive land, and sought that it was retained together with current exclusions for lifestyle lots or similar. This would assist to manage reverse sensitivity and also maximise the use of land should it turn over to urban uses at a future time. Concerns were also raised at the proposal for quarrying and mining provisions in the National Policy Statements for Indigenous biodiversity, freshwater management, and highly productive land.
Yeah, I've just got a question.
While we're in the highly productive land, give it to me in layman's terms. You are still for that highly productive land?
Still for the highly productive land. The proposal in this package was to remove land use 3 from being considered as highly productive land. We're saying we're a little bit concerned about that because it's potentially you would then have urban development maybe right up against highly productive 1 and 2 land, and we're just worried about make it more difficult to manage reverse sensitivity. And also lifestyle lots are not a permitted activity on highly productive land 3. They do need a resource consent and an assessment has to take place. Yeah, so we thought that should be maintained.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
Also, there were proposals for the quarrying and mining provisions, and these related to the national policy statements for Indigenous biodiversity, freshwater management, and the highly productive land. And we had a concern there, as we know that there are important mapping exercises that haven't taken place, for example, significant natural areas. And our suggestion there was that these mapping processes are undertaken prior to those provisions being finalised, and that, for example, you would give regard to highly significant natural areas, and maybe that there can be mining in lesser areas.
So how feasible is that to occur, given the timing of this being changed and having that mapping? Like, is that possible, and who's going to do it?
And unfortunately, what happened was Clean Stop. So our suggestion was the regional council would undertake these are functions that they started and they had to stop. And now, unfortunately, since we wrote the submission, Plan Stop has come in, and they probably can't undertake those that work in those plan changes.
A moving beast.
Yeah, there's a moving beast, isn't it? And of course, it's just there's so many tentacles to try and align with changes and like to try and improve it, because it's so complicated. But any change you make, there's always a consequence as well, and that's the nature of the beast, right?
I guess we should say in the won't we?
And it's very hard. Like it's like, and I hear the challenge for us as being a tier 3 council too. It's quite different from a tier 1 and 2, and we're sort of bundled in this grouping. But there's quite a significant difference, really, isn't there?
And that's certainly been recognised in the local councils throughout the region that want more recognition of what we're like, and we're not like the cities.
You know, that's definitely important. Yeah, I understand the high productive soil thing is quite an interesting one, because towns are built on land that's good because that's what people come for, but it's to do it in a way that's that protects the soil, because at the end of the day, it's a major food basket. We are a district that's a major food basket, so it's to strike the balance. It's all about balance at the end of the day, isn't it? And trying to avoid the unintended consequences and the risks around that. And that's a challenge we face. 66% of our soils in this district are highly productive. Sorry, Carolyn.
To grow, you almost have to be creating new little satellite towns.
Yeah, but even
our
that,
highly productive soils are right close to town anyway. So,
but they're in the satellite. Our villages are in high productive soil anyway, so we're quite regardless. Yeah. I guess the thing is do you? The question to that is then, do you not develop those satellites that you just focus on where the infrastructure is? But anyway, that's a separate discussion to this. But this sort of guides us a little bit around what growth will look like, because this is all really about growth and how our country can move forward with the OMA changes. Yeah, sorry, just keep going, Carolyn. Is there anything else you needed to add?
I just noted the submission was supportive of the proposed changes with regard to agriculture in the coastal policy statement, as it was proposed there to recognise and enable the agriculture areas and treaty settlements. Package 3, fresh water, expressed concerns that the proposal to rebalance the current singular approach of Te Mana o Te Wai by substituting a suite of objections was considered the proposed approach would not result in improved outcomes for the water resource, and sought that the current approach was retained. With regard to the permitted activity that was proposed for commercial vegetable growing, the submission sought the addition of standards to ensure that any permitted activity does not cause adverse effects on the natural environment. And then with regard to simplifying the wetland provisions, similar to the comments that were made in relation to package 2 primary sector, The submission sought that wetland mapping was undertaken by regional councils prior to the simplification of the provisions, and these provisions recognise limiting activities in and adjacent to significant wetlands, but obviously we've run up against Plan Stop again, and that's most likely work that won't be undertaken. As far as we're aware, they can obviously make application to undertake a plan change, but I'm not sure that would fit. Probably wouldn't fit the exclusion, what is available. Package 4, going for housing growth. So this submission sought to further clarify how the proposals in the discussion document apply to Tier 3. The same concern has come through the submissions from the other local councils in the region, and the submission has recommended careful thought is given to the impact of the going for housing growth proposals on Tier 3 authorities. The submission also thought the new resource management system needs to better provide for creating communities, and the new system provides a path for local outcomes to be recognised and achieved. The submission strongly supported the improved regulatory weight that would be afforded to the spatial plans. And to contribute to community outcomes, the submission considered it made sense for each local authority to identify the key outcomes for their urban area, and as they are more familiar with those characteristics. The submission recognised that the discussion document sought to provide alternative development options for those that may be identified in spatial plans. The submission suggested that while it was prudent to follow a spatial plan, there may be limited circumstances where other development options could be supported. For example, where growth has been significantly higher than projected. And the submission considered the limited circumstances where it could occur would have to be clearly spelled out in the Planning Act. And we'll obviously have another opportunity later in the year to comment on the provisions in the Planning Act.
Gary.
Just a couple things that I can't find the page that I was working in, all the policy changes, so much comments are being made. But just a couple of things. There's an area in there that talks about forestry and our response.
Yes.
One of the things that I noticed was we didn't, as a district, take into account the impacts of forestry that might be managed by area in this district, even though the forest doesn't exist in this district. So there's a number of hauraki that are part of our collective that have significant interest in forestry in the hauraki area.
Yes.
And our comments that didn't seem to, I guess, enhance the ability of EV to maximise their those particular assets. And secondly, the coastal area, even though we don't have coast here, much like Iwi and Haku of this district do, and so we haven't referred to any of that as well. In terms of those impacts, I guess.
Certainly, we did keep it high level, and that's probably something that we can look at next time.
And I guess what's sort of the uptake of submissions that are made to these sorts of policies when they go down to Wellington anyway?
Well, we do know that for packages 1 and 2, there is no hearing process, so those comments will be absorbed into the reformatting of the documents, and those revised documents will come out later. There may be a hearing process in relation to the 2 second packages. We know that we will be able to submit to those, but we don't know the process after that.
That's what it is, I guess.
Yeah.
Sorry, just one other thing that I noticed through that all those packages, it continues to talk about the in the public domain space that the land is held in perpetuity, which brings me back to the discussion that I was trying to have a couple of months ago, which is about if land is held in perpetuity by a hub or Iwi, it has no capital value, therefore should not be rated.
Yes. So my understanding of the rating valuation is determined by the potential, not the sale necessarily value of the property, but the potential value of the property to generate income. So, and that's the theory as I understand it. So,
Is that consistent right across all rating systems?
where councils use capital value, I believe that's the methodology. The theoretical, like any investment, the theoretical income that can be derived from that particular asset is the approach.
Yeah, it's not about. When we've spoken about rates in the past, they talked about the value of a house going up, therefore rates go up, therefore it's based on the ability to be able to sell that asset. So that's different to the potential of that land being able to generate income.
Well, I guess the other thing that we do in terms of our services and the activities that we undertake, they're focused on enhancing, if you like, the well-being of the residents, e.g. water supply and wastewater at the moment, roading for connection economic purposes, parks and reserves, etc. So I guess my point is that that's not, that those purposes are driven not for any economic necessarily gain for the council, but more an outcome for the community. So quite a interesting rating philosophy discussion. Happy to have that discussion. Does it necessarily, in my view, touch on this particular issue? But it does create confusion as to what the value is and what does it represent. So happy to have that conversation at the appropriate time.
There's no further discussion. In conclusion, voting. So I guess we can look for a recommendation. Move James Thomas, that'd be, and seconded James Sainsbury, and the council retrospectively endorses the submissions and feedback on the government's the reform package and the reform packages. Those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thanks, Carolyn. And now we'll move on to item 7.5, which Fiona is table for private plan change 55 to make it operative.
Morena. So this is has obviously been through a big process. It's been advertised, was limited notified, and decisions being made, and we received no appeals. So the plan change relates to Fonterra at Waitoa, and basically seeks to replace the existing development concept plan with a new development concept plan. It has a new noise emission control boundary and replaces some rules associated with noise and other activities, and has some minor changes in relationship to zoning and the landscape buffer area. So the report sort of outlines the process that it's been through, and the decision today is really as to whether or not you choose to make the plan change operative. So there's two options there. The first one is to make it operative, which is the recommendation. The second one is to not make it operative. And it just sort of says that we can, if it wasn't to be made operative, we can still take the rules into account, because under section A6B, a decision has been made. But there could be a bit of confusion in terms of what are the existing rules and the replacement rules. So that's therefore the option, the recommended option is to make it operative.
Yes, it's been straightforward.
We talked through really well, I think. So yeah.
So you're happy to move the motion? Kevin moving, and seconded Russell, that we do that plan change becomes operative, obviously pursuant to the schedule. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, and then we go on to item 8.1, which is the district plan and RMA update. We've got Jay Shree.
Morena, just quickly go through the updates on RMA and the district plan. So as Carolyn mentioned before, we had the plan stop announcement from central government. Happened on the 16th of July, and the government intends to stop councils from notifying new plans, regional policy statement reviews, changes or variations. These changes are part of the Resource Management Consenting and Other System Changes Amendment Bill, which has now received royal assent on the 20th of August and has become law. The changes include suspending the requirement for councils to implement the National Planning Standards. However, some plan changes are proposed to continue if they were based on housing growth, urban development, or natural hazards. So what this means for Plan Change 49 Waharoa and Plan Change 61 National Planning Standards, we have paused work on both plan changes at the moment. Our team is confident we will not be progressing any work to do with the National Planning Standards, but we are investigating if there are some matters in the plan change and changes in the district plan that could meet the exemption criteria. We're also investigating whether the Waharoa plan change can meet the exemption criteria, and if we do have a good case, we will have to seek permission from the minister to formally continue this work. Updates on Plan Change 54 Papakainga. Our team has prepared a draft toolkit, are in the process of organising a hui with iwi working group chairs to test run this. The team has also finished work on a practice note, just to help the consent planners implement district plan Papakainga provisions. We are aware of the NESP, so we expect implementation to be end of this year. Moving on to private plan change Calcutta. So the application for private plan change 57 Calcutta has lapsed. Council has received a request for the new private plan change 62 Calcutta, and we're currently reviewing the application. And as Carolyn mentioned before in her item, our team have been making submissions on the 4 national direction packages. That was up for consultation in May. And as Carolyn also mentioned, the new Planning Act and Natural Environment Act are set to be released for consultation by the end of the year. And that is part to be in phase 3. NPDC growth strategy. Our team are currently working on the early stages of project planning for the strategy. And in terms of the mana whakaarohi invitations, Council received 6 of these and intend to improve working relationships with tangata whenua and local authorities. Recently, Council have sent letters to relevant iwi authorities, and a hui is likely to be held late September to discuss this further. And just lastly, the Hauraki Golf Forum. This was held on Monday this week and was held in Hamilton at the Waikato Regional Council Chambers. There was a visit and update from Minister of Conservation Tama Potaka. He highlighted that the Hauraki Golf Moana and Marine Protection Bill is up to its 3rd reading and is likely to be passed in the next 4 weeks. And more information about the meeting can be viewed on the Auckland Council website. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. So once again, just a comment, I feel a bit sorry for Waharoa and because it's taken so long. You know, we just get caught up in logging and certainly Calcutta one as well, but just hoping.
Well, our own plan changes, of course, take a back seat when we've got other plan changes in. So, and then just add in the external factors, and plan change 49, it's got a 4 in front of it, and we're up to plan changes with a 6 in front of them.
How much of a difference is the new Calcutta footprint? It's small.
Yes.
So it's about half the size. So the area, the total area is about 20 hectares, and by the time you have the roads and landscaping and all of that, you're down to about 17 for sort of built area, 17 hectares for built area.
Any further discussion or questions for the team? Someone like to move that the report be received. Thank you, Caleb. Seconder. Extra saves free. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against. Carried. Thanks for that. But piece of work in the cleaning space. There's always something happening, isn't there?
Certainly is, yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. We'll now break for morning tea.
Haven't done it.
Hey, welcome to the board.
Oh, excuse me.
Just moving on to item 8.2, which is the Studholme Street, the update on the Studholme Street Quarrelsville RSA. And Susan's, because we're running a little bit ahead schedule, is not quite here yet. So I believe Rupert is online and he's not well.
Oh.
He's yeah, a bit croaky, under the weather, and Mania will cover as well.
Thank you, Mayor Adrian, and if I make any mistakes, Rapa hopefully won't be able to correct me because he can't say anything. No, Rapa's actually worked well with Fiona to get this project to a position where we can advance, effectively mended, I believe, a relationship which had broken between staff and the RSA officials. So I'll take the report as being read. The critical things are we are under the clock, not only from our regulatory team, because we've got a dangerous structure notice that applies to that wall, but also our desire, our objective to get a structure, appropriate structure in place for Anzac Day next year. So, as I mentioned, Fiona and Upper have met with the RSA on a number of occasions, the RSA representatives, executive, and I think the relationship is at a point where we can advance this. The team are focusing, given the initial design and the cost estimate of that design was well out of what we considered, either parties considered an acceptable level, a redesign to achieve a safe outcome, a safe and affordable outcome is now being commissioned. Time frame wise, we really need to be, as I believe, and I can correct me on this one, I believe we need to have pretty much design completed by the end of September so that we can procure, so that we can get the work done well in time for Anzac Day. So happy to take any questions on the update.
Questions, anybody?
Caleb.
Previously, we've talked about this Mania, and there's been float costs at 800,000 or higher possibly. So have you got an update on a new projected cost?
No, I don't, except to say even half that figure in my view was too much. So let me just say that the team are definitely focused on an outcome which is appropriate in terms of cost. And what do I mean by that? I think Susan's alluded to this in the report. That might be a form of contouring.
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry, and the obviously for the stage 4 remediation by I think 2026 is that.
Is that achievable? Our view is it is achievable if we hit the. I mean, to be honest, this has been around far too long. And I've reflected on that. The mayor asked me that question, and it's hanging around far too long. I think perversely, the reason why it's taken so long perversely is that everybody has wanted, staff have wanted to do the right thing by a very significant organisation in our community, the RSA. And I think the concerns were being developed about what this might end up costing. And fundamentally, and as I thank Fiona and Upper for fronting the RSA so that we could. And we could actually get to a point where, look, we have to have a workable solution. So the goal is most definitely to get by Anzac Day next year. And as I say, that creates its own tension, which is potentially helpful in terms of, well, we have to make the call. We can't hang around, for all parties.
Yeah, but the hardest thing though, in terms of meeting that deadline, is actually agreed on the design.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, indeed. So, in terms of, and I guess we're going to have, in some ways it can have to be a compromise because of the cost.
Correct. 100%.
Chris. I mentioned before my concern setting precedents and what have you, and we have a number of council-owned properties that have facilities leased at peppercorn rentals and the like that may present issues like this in the future. Can you confirm that we do have a lease now?
I think this is about the car park.
The actual car park, which is effectively.
We have a lease that was not renewed, or the renewal was not taken up in August last year. We have the license occupied actually for that area, and it has not been signed at this point. I believe a reason for that is the relationship, and the angst that it's taken so long to resolve the war issue.
Right. So they're effectively in default of that anyway. I personally feel that as long as we get the costs are fairly shared, that we can proceed. Right? Knowing that there's considerably more than what we thought it was going to be, right? But there still has to be a fair share, because this is the RSA. The other half of it effectively is the ratepayers, and so there has to be some consideration in this decision, because it's ratepayers' money.
I can comment on that. And my view on this project has been, each party has legal obligations. So that is the guiding parameter for determining an apportionment in the first instance. And so what I mean by that, a part of the structure, the current structure exists on council land. We own that structure. We will have to address that structure. Part of it sits on RSA land. That is their responsibility. My hope is, and I might be optimistic, my hope is that coming up with a design that solves both of those problems is at a cost that is reasonable and reflects those respective legal obligations. I mean, that's a hope. That's the objective. Until we get to the point where we've confirmed the alternative viable option, I guess that's a point of discussion.
They haven't indicated what their maximum is it?
Look, there has been discussion, and we have received correspondence that through one of our officers that there was a limit that the RSA were willing to pay. I think what Fiona and Upper have worked through with the executive is we need to solve this problem for both of us. And look, I haven't suggested they say this, but the reality is you really can't put those kinds of limits on a project like that. You have to understand, in my view, firstly, what your legal obligation is, what you're obliged to do, and then what else is there beyond that. So, as I said, I'm hopeful that we get a solution that says, for example, council share, given what we own and what we're obliged to do, is appropriate. That's what I'm hopeful of. I might be just hopeful, but I guess that's our first point of discussion. So any limits that have been expressed in the past, well, I understand the rationale for that, and I suspect that was in part frustration. Going forward, it is about working through our respective obligations. So a long-winded way, what might have been said before does not necessarily apply now, in my view.
Is that due to a change of possible executive that had a change recently, AGM?
Look, all I can say is I think Fiona and Upper have done a great job, and the Mayor first, and then Fiona and Upper following up after the Mayor have restored relationships to a point where we can advance this. So I don't wish to comment on any change of personnel or anything like that. I feel that we're in a space, and look, to the point of the Deputy Mayor timeframe, we really have to nail some decisions quite quickly if we're going to make that date. And that's the tension that is created out of this project, which when you both want to achieve the same thing, and you mentioned the word, Deputy Mayor, that compromise sits as part of that process.
Biggest challenge is finding a good solution that's not gold plated.
Correct.
Because I think that's where we get caught sometimes with the recommendation, and it seems quite gold plated for what it is. So
So just rest assured, to your point, Mayor Adrian, we don't have any authority to actually commit any funds beyond this stage. So it comes back here. You will see it.
So I only have one comment. Let's get the job done.
Yes,
for God's
yeah,
sake,
yeah,
you know.
and that's the
Once
thing.
again, another one that's been going round and round. We just have to suck it up, for want of a better word, and get on with it. 'Cause
Yeah.
it can't be hanging around any longer.
Yeah, well, that was the frustration, obviously, with me speaking with the team at the RSA, is that again the communication, the pipes were blocked basically between, and so there was
Just get on with it.
and we us as here sitting around the table, it's we weren't aware, and so
That's
opening
easy,
it up
easy for me to say. I understand
Yeah.
that that's easier said than done, but it does need to be fixed.
definitely needs to be done. Sharon,
How much of the land originally was owned by Kiwi Rail? So how was that into the car park?
Yes, right up to the fence was in that car park. As you drive in, right up to the fence on the right.
Yeah.
and
So
the wall.
are they? I know they've on sold, but do they have any liability in terms of that railway track running right next to it with the shaking and the carrying on and the with that train going?
I don't know what Kiwi Rail's liability is for any building next to a railway. I suspect in my dealings with Kiwi Rail, and this is not a criticism, their rights override everybody else's.
You build next to a railway line. It's like building next to a road, and then the road gets busier and trucks go through. You will get vibration. That is the nature of it's a reality. Yeah.
So if you look at the plan from memory, that the legal boundary between that land and the RSA land is almost goes up to their veranda.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's the
exactly.
wall.
Yeah.
And that's where council's obligations sit, is with that part.
Yeah.
The RSA's obligations sit with the road frontage, correct?
Yes.
To be quite clear. So that's why it's interrelated. So yeah.
You can't do one without the
The
other.
other. So relationships in a good space. Fiona has picked up the running with the bat, and obviously a rubber on board. So I'm confident that there'll be some solutions put in front that will not be gold-plated. It's really
It's going to be an interesting one because the executive might, and I don't know what their rules are, even I'm a member of Morrison RSA, whether they've got to go back to their service or return members to make a decision to spend that sort of capital, which in turn could slow down the process even further.
It's a very good point, and I suppose that reinforces that we will control what we can control, and there are some things we can't. That's a fair point.
Sort of could affect that too.
It didn't help us.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that is the update. Would someone like to move and second that we receive it, please? Thanks, Caleb, and second Russell. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And then our final item is 8.3, with just the external committee minutes for the civil defence emergency management group. Do you have any comments to make from that meeting? It was fairly procedural and
And all the others.
yeah. Someone like to move that the Dex Russell and seconded James that we receive that report. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Okay. Information received. Terms. Right, with that, I will now close the meeting. Thank you everyone for your attendance this morning. And those on